Okay. So everyone's talking to this book, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even a new movie,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people are definitely curious about it.
Uh-huh.
And maybe you're one of those people trying to figure out if it's worth actually picking up the book.
Definitely.
So that's what we're diving into today. Not just like what happens in the book, but what makes it so powerful.
Yeah.
Whether it's something you should experience firsthand.
Well, let me just say right off the bat, All Quiet on the Western Front is a must-read. It's powerful, it'll stay with you, and honestly, it kind of punches you in the gut.
Okay, so you got me. It punches you in the gut.
Yeah.
But what if I'm not like a war story person?
Mm-hmm. It's not really about the war itself, you know? It's about the people in it. The writing is really direct, almost like bare bones.
Well-
Remarque doesn't mess around with fancy language. He just gets right to the point. That's probably why it still feels so modern, even though it was written so long ago. And he uses this stream of consciousness style that puts you right there in the head of Paul Bäumer.
Okay.
He's our main character, a young German soldier in World War I.
You keep saying powerful and impactful, and some reviews I've seen online, they use words like devastating,
Sure.
even crushed. I don't know if I need that kind of heavy stuff right now.
Well, think of it less like heavy stuff, more like understanding something you only had a vague idea of before.
Okay.
The book definitely doesn't shy away from the horrors of war, but it doesn't try to make it glorious either. There's no big battles, no heroes saving the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about the toll it takes on you mentally, feeling like you're less than human, losing your innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but there's also something beautiful about the way it shows camaraderie, these moments of humanity in the middle of complete chaos.
Okay, you've definitely got me interested. But World War I was ages ago.
Oh,
How is that relevant to like someone like me living now in the 21st century?
that's the thing about this book. It's so timeless. The setting is specific, sure, but the themes are universal, Like Paul struggles to connect with his family after what he's seen in the trenches. And there's this scene where he encounters a French soldier, and for a minute they just see each other as humans, not enemies.
Mm.
These moments speak to the core of what war does to us, no matter when it happens.
It's not just a history lesson. It's about understanding the cost of war whenever it happens.
Exactly. It makes you question how much has really changed.
Okay, so you sold me on the why,
Mm-hmm.
but how does this book compare to other war novels? I've heard of, The Road Back, Storm of Steel, even Wilfred Owen's poetry.
Sure.
What makes All Quiet unique?
Well, let's take The Road Back. That one's all about the aftermath, trying to go back to normal life.
Okay.
All Quiet throws you right into the trenches, the immediate experience of combat. Then you have Storm of Steel. That one actually glorifies war. From a German nationalist perspective, Junger, the author, he saw beauty in it, meaning even, which is totally different from how Remarque shows it.
So you're saying it's like a counter-narrative to these more romanticized views of war.
Exactly. Then there's Owen, his poetry. It really captures the horror through these powerful images. Remarque does that too, but within a whole story, so you really feel like you're living it alongside the characters.
Interesting. You've really painted a picture. Let's get into some specifics.
Okay.
What are some moments that'll stick with readers, the ones that get under your skin?
There's this one scene that always gets to me, and it's when Paul goes home on leave.
Uh-huh.
He goes back to his family, but he's just not the same guy anymore. I
Right.
mean, everything he's seen and done in the war has changed him, and he can't even explain it to them, and they just don't get it.
Oh, wow.
And it really shows you how much of a gap there is between people who've been to war and those who haven't.
Yeah, it's like they're living in two completely different worlds. That's got to be so isolating for him.
It is.
So are there any moments of hope in the book? Times when the characters find some kind of comfort or connection?
Yeah, there are actually. And they hit you even harder because of all the darkness around them.
Okay.
Like there's this one scene that's really powerful where Paul meets a French soldier in a shell hole.
Mm.
They're supposed to be enemies, of course. But in that moment, they just see each other as people, as humans.
Yeah.
And they even share a cigarette. It's such a simple thing. But in that situation, it says so much about how desperate they are for some kind of connection in the middle of all the dehumanizing stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just thinking about that gives me chills. It's amazing how such a small gesture can be so powerful.
It really is.
You were talking earlier about how honest the book is.
Yeah.
How it doesn't hold back.
Right.
So what about the scenes that really show us the brutality of war?
There's this one that always stays with me. It's where Paul and his friends have to take cover in a graveyard during an artillery attack. Yeah, so they're literally surrounded by death everywhere. Both the people already buried there and the ones dying around them.
Oh, wow.
And it just shows how present death is for them all the time, how every second could be their last.
Man, that's heavy stuff.
It is.
It really makes you wonder how anyone could come back from that kind of experience and be okay, without any scars.
That's a really good point, and the book definitely explores that. It's not just about the physical wounds, it's about the stuff you can't see, the scars that stay with you long after the fighting is over.
Right.
Paul and his friends, they're constantly dealing with trauma and guilt and this feeling that they've lost a part of themselves that they can never get back.
That's so sad.
It is.
You mentioned earlier that the Nazis banned this book.
Yeah.
Why was that? It seems weird that a story about German soldiers would be considered unpatriotic.
Well, that's actually what makes the book so powerful. It doesn't try to sugarcoat war or make it seem glorious. It shows the truth, the horror, the pointlessness of it all, and the damage it does to the people who fight. And the Nazis, they saw that honesty as dangerous. It challenged their whole nationalist ideology.
Wow, that makes me want to read it even more. It's amazing how a book can be so threatening to people in power. Okay, so you've convinced me. All Quiet on the Western Front is an important book and one that's worth reading. But honestly, I'm a little intimidated. Is it a hard book to get through?
It can be tough emotionally, for sure.
Yeah.
But the writing itself is actually pretty easy to follow. Remarque keeps it simple and clear even when he's talking about complicated emotions and experiences. He doesn't use a lot of jargon or flowery language, so it's easy for modern readers to connect with it. It's like you're not just reading about the war, you're experiencing it right along with Paul.
So it's challenging, but ultimately worth it.
Definitely. It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish it.
Huh.
It'll make you think, it'll make you feel, and it might even change the way you look at the world.
Okay, last question before we wrap up our deep dive.
Sure.
Knowing what you know about this book, how do you think Paul Bäumer's experience in World War I compares to the experiences of soldiers in today's wars? Is war fundamentally different now, or are there still echoes of All Quiet on the Western Front in every generation that goes to battle?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, the way we fight wars has definitely changed with all the technology and everything. But I think the core human experience of being in combat that hasn't really changed that much.
Okay.
The fear, the camaraderie, the trauma, the moral questions you face, those are all timeless parts of war that go beyond any specific conflict.
So even with drones and cyber warfare and all that, the heart of being a soldier is still the same.
Yeah, I think so. The way Remarque captures the psychological effects of war, the disillusionment, the struggle to find meaning, and all the chaos, those are themes that still resonate just as strongly today.
That's a powerful reminder that even with all our progress, we haven't escaped the human cost of war.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It does. Are we just going to keep doing this over and over again?
It's a tough question, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that books like All Quiet on the Western Front, they can remind us, about what war really costs.
Right.
They help us connect with the people who've served and understand what it does to them, even long after it's over.
So it's not just about looking back, but about learning from it.
Exactly. And maybe by understanding what those soldiers went through, we can try to build a future where it doesn't happen again.
I like that. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into All Quiet on the Western Front.
It was my pleasure.
Hopefully we've given you a better idea of why this book is so powerful and why it still means so much almost 100 years later. If you're looking for a book that'll make you think and feel and stay with you long after you're done reading, then this is the one for you. Add All Quiet on the Western Front to your list. You won't regret it. Until next time, keep diving deep.